Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 14 of Meta. I am Artosis, and this is the Down Under special. I got 3 Aussies on the show, and I'm so excited. I've wanted to do this for a long time because Australia kind of intrigues me as far as StarCraft goes. But first, let's go ahead and introduce these guys. Returning once again, we do have Pig. How's it going, Pig? How's your curry leg doing?
Hey man, it's going well. I finally got my cheese account to GM on Korea, so
Nice.
I'm officially a disgusting cheeser. And today there's an election going on in Australia, so I'm actually getting requests right now for you to curse a guy named Tony Abbott by predicting that he's going to win the election.
I heard he was going to win and filter the internet. I'm not completely sure about it, but
Now we just need you to predict it so it doesn't.
Well, if that's what I've been told by people who actually live in Australia, I'm going to go ahead and say, I think that's the case. So,
Changing politics now.
Thank you.
yeah, let's start influencing the world. And then, of course, Aiga's back once again. Aiga's, how are you doing?
Pretty good. I've actually been able to win tournaments in Australia recently, which is a hell of a lot better than not winning them. It turns
I guess
out.
that is. Before it was only Moonglade, but now you guys are finally taking some of these as well. And then
Yeah,
for the first time,
Terran's
Well,
winning shit. It's
Widow
amazing.
Mines. We'll talk about Widow Mines in a little bit. I hope you watch DRG versus Innovation because that's going to be a fun conversation. And then the first time on this show, we have Rossi. A lot of you may not know him. He got second in the qualifier for the Hong Kong tournament. And a very good Australian Terran. Looks like he's about to land a helicopter. How are you doing today, Rossi?
Yeah, I'm doing really well. Really excited to be on this show. First big show for me, but I'm already having a lot of fun. And yeah, lately for me, just came back from Hong Kong where I got to hang out with you and a lot of pro gamers, and that was a really fun event for me.
Yeah.
But other than that, not too much is going on.
Sick. All right. It is time to start. First, let's just mention that apparently news just came up that, in fact, MVP team, including the StarCraft team, did get purchased by Samsung. And it looks, from the very first little translation snippet that we got from Reddit, here, I'll link to this in the chat for everybody. There's that, and for you guys. But apparently, it looks like it's going to be a separate team from just regular Samsung Con. It looks like it's called Samsung Galaxy Con. Any thoughts on this, you guys? I know it's kind of like a weird subject for meta, but it's kind of exciting seeing the MVP team finally not be completely ass broke, for me at least.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I mean, they've got such a big lineup as well, and there's some pretty big figures going around, especially for when you take into account. I think they were all being quoted in US dollars, like something like $500,000 for the team, which is pretty impressive. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty damn exciting. I'm happy they took the StarCraft 2 team as well, because there were people saying they only wanted the LoL team, and then you didn't want the team to kind of split in two and have some weird, messy situation. So it seems pretty cool.
No. It's
It's also good to see them win a tournament and then not like run out of money. They won that team league, the Acer one recently.
All right.
Oh yeah,
And
that's true.
yeah, it's good that they don't go from winning a tournament to being flat ass broke.
Like disbanding or something like that. It's like, hey, we're the best team, and now we're disbanding because there's no money. Oh, but it's actually, it kind of reminds me. It's kind of cool that they got picked up with the LoL team. It reminds me of the really old days in StarCraft 1, where those teams actually did sell for sums of money like this, where it was like, oh, you made a big team, here's your ton of money for it. And that's what all the SC2 coaches, or a lot of them, I think, were trying to do when they entered into the scene in Korea. So very happy for them. Happy for whoever gets all that money and the players, that they'll actually have, you know, this huge mega company in Korea supporting them. Really nice. But let's go ahead and talk about the actual game. Just some nice little side news that popped up. I want to talk about the new maps, because now there's this thing where everyone uses the same maps that are on the ladder. All the WCS is using these same maps. And I know that there's some pretty strong opinions on some of these. So which do you guys want to start on between Polar Knight, Yansu, and Frost? Because I see your little cursors on the Google Docs on different ones.
That's just a coincidence, I assure you.
Okay.
I'll start. Polar Knight, I played a very little amount of it before thumbing down. I think I played one TVP, which convinced me it was bullshit. Not only is there like, well, like, fuck, okay, So I hate blink stalkers. All right, for
Yeah.
TVP, and there's about 18 ways to get blonked. And even if the blink stalkers haven't killed you, the back rocks are perfect to slip DTs through. And as soon as this happened once, I was like, nah, not going through this. And like blink stalkers aren't even all in. Like, do I have to just proxy factories to metagame the shit out of them and just like walk a widow mine in into their mineral? I don't want to have to do that. That's horrible.
So you played
So
like
they-
two
Frost
games and
isn't normals.
downvoted it?
Like one TVP. It looked fine for the other matchups, but TVP
Rossi,
I
what-
just didn't want to deal with blinks.
As a Terran, do you agree with this, Rossi, about you had to thumb down this map? Because I'm looking at how big and wide open that main is. I'm just imagining the surface area I have to cover against medevac drops. So what do you
Well,
think, Rossi?
I played a TVZ on this game. I was ridiculously far behind, and there's just so much room to drop, and there's different terrain levels. You can just abuse this map with drops so easily versus Zerg specifically. Versus Protoss, I only know what I've seen in the GSL, and there's been a lot of proxy stuff. A lot of Protoss, they proxy the buildings behind their main because they know it's safe, and it's very little chance of that being scouted. I've seen DTs and I've seen proxy oracles there as well. So definitely a tough map, TVT, I would say for sure. But the third is quite like open to attack too. So definitely a lot of two basey stuff I'd predict on that map.
Do you have it thumbs up or thumbs down?
Thumbs up for now until I get a bit more experience on it.
All right, that seems more fair than Iagoz's point of view. Pig, what about you? What are your thoughts here?
I'm still completely undecided on the new maps. I kind of like that. I think my favorite feature in all of the new maps. Yeah, sorry, just looking at all of them to make sure. The third base isn't just this really annoying pocket thing which you can't attack into. That was one of the things I found most frustrating in Wings of Liberty was when you had maps come out like Ohana, Cloud Kingdom, and the whole map pool turned into this stale thing where it was all like the easiest to defend 3 bases ever, and that's it. So everyone just plays the same sort of game styles, and I think you hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, the gameplay can get stagnant and stuff." And what you got to remember is the maps are always part of what creates a lot of diversity in strategies and things being viable and not. So I think it's good to see the maps going away steadily to faraway third bases and really interesting terrain. Like Polar Knight's really, really cool. I've been playing quite a few Protoss players who have just been knocking down those backdoor rocks and taking their third behind their natural. Mutalisks are still really powerful on this map. I find it's a really good muta map for ZVP. ZVT, yeah, it's been kind of decent. It is a little bit hard to defend drops, but same as any map. I mean, if you defend them properly, then it's a lot of wide open spaces, good counter-attack paths. So I think Polar Knight's a pretty damn kind of varied map. I think we're going to see a lot of good games on it.
Yeah, I'm kind of happy to see a map that's so different in the map pool finally, because as you said, a lot of these maps are just Daybreak twisted in a certain way, where it's like, okay, this is giving us better games than Steps of War was, so let's just keep going on that. So I'm actually quite happy to see this map, and happy every time I get to cast it. I don't know when I start playing it a lot how much I'll like it, though. I mean, it's, looks kind of tough without that easy to take third that I'm so comfortable with. Any other thoughts on that one?
One base blink stalker kills everything.
Well,
It does.
It does.
and then if it doesn't, then suddenly my main base is just
Then
who
you
knows what
expand, and
angle.
it's okay.
I need like 7 observers to see where the drops are coming from, which angle.
But it's fine. You have blink stalkers. As soon as you see it, like 13 stalkers appear underneath the dropship. They can't drop you. You got blinks.
I guess
Logic is
not
flawless.
if I'm the map from what I've seen in TVTs seems like that might be the most annoying matchup. I've seen so many of these games where like someone gets behind, just sieges up behind the natural, and then like even though they were losing, now they're winning because Terran isn't mining. I know that Iagos, you have it thumbs down, so you haven't played as much, but Rossi, you hit that much? That type of weird craziness?
Sorry, can you repeat that question? I missed it. Sorry.
With the way that you can siege up behind the natural, a lot of the pro games that I've watched on this map, TVT so far, I've seen a lot of moves like that, where the guy that's behind is like, wow, you think I'm behind, but then I siege you up and you're fucked. So, I mean, is TVT really weird for you on this map, or has it been
Well,
standard? What do you think?
that's the life of TVT, really. Like, if your opposing Terran gets in a good position, your advantage just disappears. You lose your economy, you lose infrastructure, and they catch up in those sort of ways. And I mean, be it sieging your natural or just a doom drop in your main, they use the terrain against you or your structures, and you fall behind. So definitely on this map. And what other maps have we had this sort of experience on?
Mm,
Do you think that influences strategy in that mobility becomes really important? Because most of the games I've watched on it, there's actually obviously been a lot of mech going on in Korea. There's been a lot of mech versus mech. There's been some bio tank versus mech as well. But yeah, I've actually been seeing just the player who's better at moving their mech around and using their medevacs with the Hellbat drops to gain position, that they seem to be the ones actually getting on top of that. But do you think maybe these openings where you open with really heavy Hellion counts or kind of really heavy bio or something like that to actually get these positions going on the map is actually something you'd want to be doing more?
For a start, no one opens heavy bio anymore. Like everyone's opening with quick starports, either aggressively or defensively. That's basically because
Yeah.
the build right now for TVT is gas first click Banshee. Even if they build turrets, it'll do enough damage that it's fine.
Yeah, because it's a lot cheaper to do for one, and it's
Yeah,
completely
no
not
one's
only you
fire.
can still get a ridiculous fast expansion with the gas first Banshee.
Would you
No one's
guys-
bio.
Speaking of that, on kind of a side note, would you guys ever consider in TBT going for 2 turrets, one on either side of your mineral line, like Zergs are oftentimes doing against like Phoenix openings right now? Like, no, I'd rather lose 9 SCVs.
Yeah, no, I'd rather just lose 9 SCVs.
Well,
At what point does making turrets like
I don't know,
cut too
man.
much into the rest of your defense? Like at this point, we might as well just make the turret ring around a main to stop anything from flying in, including medevacs later in the game.
Well, 2 turrets, like, even if you put 2 on each side, you're still going to be vulnerable in other areas. So you sort of want to cover the most area with the turrets you got. So it's usually 1 in the mineral line, 1 in your structures, and then 1 at your expansion. And then your Viking can sort of cover it with the vision.
Yeah.
So, and it doesn't really matter if you lose a couple SCVs. You can sort of deter them overall.
Yeah. How about this 6 strategy, right? You put 2 in each mineral line, and then you don't make any reactors, because I always see those click Banshees just destroy those reactors so quickly.
I think if a Banshee, like, if all it kills is like an add-on or a depot, that's maybe not the best use of a Banshee.
Yeah, if it's forcing turrets and whatnot, it's not too bad.
It forces turrets by, like, virtue of the fact that it's a fucking Banshee. Like, it's not... If all it kills is like a depot or a reactor, you're like, yeah, okay, I can just make another one of those. That's not too bad. It's SCVs and Marines you gotta conserve.
All right, well, let's go on to another one of these maps. I guess we'll just go down the list a bit. Yansu. Let's talk about that a bit. How do you guys like this map so far? The Neo Dual Site, or whatever this is.
TVZ on it is
Terran
hilarious.
side, man. Yeah, what are you saying? I don't like playing Terran on this map.
Funny.
It's really hard.
ZBT is really hard?
You've got these ridges over the middle, and all sorts of terrain and high ground, and there's like really, really awkward thirds to hold. Like if you look at the third, the kind of what you'd say the natural third is, which is the one not in the middle of the map, because that one's very exposed. You've got this ramp leading down to it right next to it, so biomine on top of that ramp is an absolute nightmare. And then there's all these ridges and watchtowers, so the ranged army becomes very difficult to deal with. It's not like it's completely one-sided or anything, but you take into account as well that the third base is so far away, so it's very hard for the Zerg player to defend it from Hellion harass. So I think you've got to do specialty builds on this map in ZVT, like get out some roaches, do some sort of wave of aggression early or something. If you're just trying to defend their Hellions, it's so hard to actually get creep to your third base, and it becomes a really, really awkward fight.
Okay.
And when Zerg try and take the third on the cliff base, You can hit that shit with Marauders from the low ground. I just mined like the ridge and just with Marauders, and then started dropping the Marines right next to the minerals if they try to expand there, and just pick them up as soon as their Ling Bane gets on it, and then all the Ling Bane explodes from mines. It's fantastic.
Every time I hear you talk about the way you play the game, I have to wonder, do you have any regular practice partners? Because I feel like people would just get frustrated by you.
What? No. I play like legit. It's just that map is complete bullshit.
Well, we're gonna have to talk more about that when we get into DRG. But let's finish up the maps.
Innovation must be stupid because you should have fucking won. All right, I'm done.
Well, hold on. Maps first.
Okay.
What do you, Ross? Your opinion on Yonsu so far?
Yeah, I just like, especially TVC, you're expanding towards the Zerg. Like, that's what you want to do, sort of, as a Terran. You can rally closer to the army, you can engage faster. So that's like another great advantage of this map. There's not too many attack paths, I noticed. Like, if you want to go, like, I was mentioning it earlier for one of the games, but I won't discuss it yet. But when you want to attack the Zerg's third, there's only one sort of path you can go through towards it. So it's creep and the like can defend that quite well. And also dropping on this map, I feel like your drops are going to get scouted. You can only really run them around the side of the map, and there will always be overlords there unless you Viking block them. Other matchups, I don't have enough experience yet to talk about it, so I'll leave it.
It's a good Blink Stalker map. Not Polar Knight good, but it's pretty good. There's a lot of openings.
One thing I do like is they have the Reaper jump thing on the back, so there's a lot of the ability for Reapers to scout around on this map. So it's another good thing to do.
Oh yeah, that too.
The Reaper jump. I thought that was the Colossus rally path. Okay, never mind. Pig, have you played much ZVP on the map yet?
ZVP, sorry.
Yeah, ZVP.
Yeah, I'm sorry, this was just going a bit crazy. Yeah, I played a bit. Gateway timings are very difficult on it. The third base is very far, and there's a lot of places to find pylons. But it's also because I'm so new at the map. There's always this learning period, especially playing against really good Korean players, where they're so good at hiding pylons, and you're not used to the map, so you're playing a little bit slower. You're trying to check every corner. So I'm still in that learning phase of getting really good at knowing exactly where to send my lings to kind of cut off any chance of the probes sneaking over to my side of the map. I've still been doing okay on it, but I found like it's very tight. It's a very small map, and just trying to play like a macro style against Skytoss sort of players, they've been kind of just rocking up to that front third base if I take that one at some point, or like as my fourth, and just shooting it down with Void Rays and going ha ha ha, running away off the cliff. And there's also that back path to Zealot counters to come into that base. There's a lot of I've been picked apart quite a few games on it, and I know it's just a matter of, okay, I've got to get used to shutting all this down. There's kind of this Zerg macro learning period with a map, but at the same time, I do feel it's very tight. You've got to kind of have a really strong presence on the map. So I think it's a very good aggressive map in some regards. Like, it's a map where you want to go out and do some special tactics. Yeah.
Excellent. Make base and defensive. All right, let's jump over to Frost. Thoughts on Frost, Iagas?
It seemed good for Zerg, so I thumbed it down. Huh? No, it's a shit Blink Stalker map.
Oh, you must love this map. Tell me all about it.
No. It's enormous. It looks good for Zerg, so I thumbed it down.
You don't even try. You're like a crotchety old man. Ross,
yeah.
I bet you've been playing it.
No, I haven't played this map yet either. I've been just catching up after getting back from Hong Kong. But yeah, it looks like a big map. Don't have too much to say about it. I don't think I've even seen it too much in the GSL yet.
No,
in
very
any big
little.
games. Yeah, so nothing to say about it, sorry.
Yeah, well, I've played quite a few games on it. Considering none of you guys have played this map yet.
I played it a little. I did play it a bit against TVZ, and like once they get all their creep out, it gets really weird. And it's, as I said, it's also enormous. Like by the time my army is on the Zerg's doorstep, it's actually half my army because I just made a new one. Like, the amount of time it takes for them to get there, it's very tiny compared to what the Zerg has, so it takes a lot of hits to kill a Zerg.
Yeah.
Okay, so
At the
feeling
same
it might
time,
be-
the bases. Sorry. Go.
Oh, you go ahead.
All right. At the same time, the bases are very like spread apart. Once again, it's kind of the theme with all the new maps. So I think it does create for more interesting play. But I also feel like it's, I don't know. For some reason, I just feel like it's because it's bigger. I think it's a little bit more comfortable as a Zerg player. I actually prefer this to the Yonsu style, where I complain a bit about the fast third on that map because I don't know. I feel like I'm so close to the opponent. I'm very vulnerable to early pushes. So I guess my Zerg mindset, I look at this map and I say, okay, creep spread is super important. Let's get that out there. You've got this kind of interesting back door, which leads to like high ground, which is above the potential third or fourth base for one of the players. So there's these interesting attack paths, but it's also not a very convenient attack path. That being said, it isn't all spawns map, I'm quite sure. So if we think about potential map balance or imbalance, I think definitely cross spawns is going to be something which I'd love to play on, say ZBT, ZBP every game. But when I'm looking at, say, if we're both top left, top right, I think it would be a little bit more difficult in terms of where to take my bases and where to defend.
I noticed when I was playing on it that every Zerg just blindly went Dreadful Pool without giving a shit. And this is correct.
Sounds about right. Okay.
That's kind of, yeah.
I'm pretty sure
it's
they
just a
could
four-player.
beat 2 Axes pretty easily, even with Dreadful Pool on that map.
Hmm.
Because it takes a year to get the fucking Marines over there.
So, I guess we'll let that wrap up this conversation because no one really has the super amount of games on this. Probably revisit that like in a couple weeks or something like that about these maps if anything comes up with them. By the way, there was a Cannon Rush location that someone found. I think Spenner found and posted on Reddit, and they fixed that, what I heard already.
Yep, they fixed it.
So good job, Blizzard. The Skype quality is kind of crap right now, so I think we're going to do our commercial just a little bit early and try to get that fixed, but we'll be back in just a couple minutes, so don't go anywhere. Be right back. Pros always want to have gear that's exactly fitted to their needs.
Something I've always dreamed about doing is using my experience as a gamer to make gear for people like me.
We're working with TT Esports to make the exact mouse, keyboard, and headset that we've always wanted to use.
When you're doing anything that you love to do, the tools that you're using matter the most.
We're designing these products from scratch to make sure that your gaming experience is completely seamless. The gear I use to play the game
Are the tools I use to win.
Okay, we are back, and the Skype call is a lot better now, so that's nice. Let's start talking about some games. WCS Korea is going on, and like there have been a lot of crazy games, but very specifically, there's been some TVZ matches that we need to talk about because they've been crazy. I guess let's start with Byong against Sleep, which for any of you who did not see, in Game 1 on Yonsu that we were just talking about, Byong went for, well, he went for, like, Cloaked Banshee into a Battlecruiser rush. Terrans and Zergs, tell me about this, because I just saw the Fusion Core, and I'm like, oh, this, it was pure excitement for me.
Yeah, I thought
Someone
it
did
was
it to me on
freaking
ladder
awesome.
yesterday.
Hmm?
Someone did it to me on ladder yesterday. It is scary as shit. It is
Really?
actually so hard to fight. Yeah. I beat it, but like I hit his starports really well, and I was like, okay, there's some sort of 2-base attack, getting your mutas, getting your lings. I'm gonna drop my 4th base, and then 4 BCs are walking across the map at 12 minutes with about 30 Marines and 12 Hellions. And it's like, whoa, wait, and your brain kind of malfunctions a little bit. Yeah, basically, I think the really interesting thing about the push is that you go a hell of a lot of Hellion Banshee harass. And if that goes well, the follow-up push is so awkward that the Zerg normally just kind of falls over and dies. Like, the push itself is so hard to kind of wrap your head around, right? Because the idea is you've got this large number of Hellions, and the idea is let's kill all the Lings and Banes, and then we've got Marine Battlecruiser, and Mutalisks and Zerglings aren't going to really beat that, as long as we can gun down enough of their Banelands. So I think it's like the sickest kind of original thing for Bibiong to actually do in a televised game, but I think you need to somehow find a way to cut into their creep spread before the attack comes, or else you just end up too deep on creep, and your Hellions can't stop the Banelings from killing all your SCVs and Marines.
Did Bill win that game, or?
No,
Yeah,
it was very
he
close
lost.
there.
Yeah, it was, and he got scouted like immediately, and he moved out with 2 BCs, and I wonder if he was going to if he didn't get scouted. I feel like he would have waited.
Yeah, the thing to note in that game, it was literally scouted as soon as the fusion core went down. But no, I thought it was a really sick build. I liked how he used his infrastructure. Like one thing to note was he just left his factory on the reactor and he was just pumping Hellions the entire time after he added racks. And I thought it might have been like a more prepared build for Sleep, because I think he's a bit more known for going later mutas, or he's more heavy Ling Bane sort of player. And like that was a really cool way to deal with that. Like it would have definitely worked if his mutas came any later. And I don't know, it was just a really cool build. It hits with +1 attack as well, so there's no upgrade advantage either way, really. And yeah, his economy is pretty good. He pulls about 15 SCVs with it. So I feel as a Zerg, it's like one of those really precise micro battles where you need to take out those SCVs with your Banes, and like all your units have to do their job sort of thing. You need to get rid of those SCVs, otherwise the battle cruisers will stay alive. Or you need to deal some damage with the Marines. I don't know, it's just such a tough fight for them because you need to sort of damage everything and then your reinforcements will sort of take out the rest. So yeah, cool build. Doesn't have much of a follow-up. Like he tried another 2 battlecruiser Marine timing, but by then he was sort of pretty dead. So yeah, that's all I can say about it really.
It seems kind of cool to me. Is this like something that, first off, is it good for that map in particular? Did he choose it because it was that map, or like why? Is this something that basically we're going to see on other ladder maps? Is this a good cheesy build to mix in? Is it good, like specifically, would you try to use it against a certain player? I know that there's a lot of Zergs in Australia. Is there one that sticks out? You're like, I think this build would be worthwhile against this Zerg in this tournament on this map.
Someone might do it against
It's kind of-
Moonblade as a joke. People
As
cheese
a
the shit
joke.
out of him. Well, people like to cheese him. I don't know why, but they do.
'Cause he's Moonblade, man. He's your champion. Come on. But I mean, is the build just, is this just that one thing where we're like, wow, this guy tried it, didn't work, that was a lot of fun, or is it something we could see again? What does everyone think on that?
I think it's kind of what Rusty was saying, where it's really good against sleep style. But I'd go so far as to say that there's quite a lot of Korean players that are very, very focused on that late meters, really heavy Ling Bane. I think the metagame has kind of traumatized a lot of Zerg players with these really fast pushes that hit around the 11-minute mark with like 10 Widow Mines, where the Terran basically builds 4 Hellions and then just keeps building the Widow Mines. Terrans are actually starting to shift away from that now. They're doing the greedier builds where they add the reactors faster. But because of that, a lot of Zergs are like, all right, we're really focused on this big Ling Bane force. Around the 13, 14-minute mark, we actually get up our 12, 15 Mutalisks. And I think as a result, yeah, it's kind of really, really powerful if you hit that right timing. Like the idea is if we non-stop build Hellions, we maybe do a run-by with like 6 to 8 of them and can get some damage done, and then we still rock up with another 12 Hellions. I think it's something which could work. I don't think it's map-specific at all, just by way of you using air units as part of the core of it. So I think it's something which definitely could work. I also think Zerg should probably build Corruptors when they see it.
Yeah, I was about to ask about that
something.
one. Corruptors, isn't that? Like, if
Yeah,
you
I was
scout
really-
them, you just make a round of Corruptors and shit on the battle cruisers.
Yeah,
I would
because
think
the
so.
Marines don't do a lot of damage as well. Like if your Mutalisks get focused by even just 4 or 5 Sim Marines on the ground, your Mutas are actually taking a lot of damage, whereas Corruptors, with their 2 armor, can ignore Marines. They ignore a lot of the battle cruiser damage. It's something like a 30% decrease. So I think it's actually definitely the right call to go Corruptors, yeah.
And they also corrupt. That's
No?
the ability
Yeah.
with the damage.
You're
That
usually
helps.
not going to have Corruption by the time, because it takes like 30 seconds after they spawn before it like...
Oh, really?
gets
Oh yeah,
ready.
right.
That's it.
I don't play Zerg. I didn't know that. That's
Mm.
bullshit.
Yeah. So yeah, because
The poor
I was scrambling
corruptor. Oh, well.
corruptors yesterday against it. I had like 6 mutalisks, and I was like, wait, start building corruptors, and
That's
yeah, they
actually.
just destroy it.
I was completely unaware that you had to wait for them after they pop out because that's
retarded.
actually
What?
this. Wait a minute. This is actually funny when you think about it. Like they're considering giving the Viper full energy when it comes out, but the poor fucking corruptor. Listen, man. There's just too many games where as someone's attacking you, those corruptors pop out. Corruption, bam, you win. You know they got to balance that somehow. Obviously, what?
This is what it got for being able to turn to a broodlord. This is its fate.
Mhm.
That got to make the corruptor as bad as possible to deter those broodlords. It's so weird. Uh, okay, so it's kind of a cool build. Now that you guys have talked a little bit about it, I'm thinking about like Lucira, having it happen to Lucira. This guy, like with how many
Yeah.
lane he likes to make, just
For sure.
straight into battle cruiser, make 4 of those things. And Lucira's gonna be like, oh, and he has like 9 queens, but it's not quite enough.
Also, if you know the Zerg's weak to Banshee Hellion pressure, because some Zergs just really fall apart to that sort of harass. So, and it's the sort of build where if it does damage, the follow up is so you need the economy to deal with the follow up sort of thing. So, yeah, if you know the Zerg falls apart to Banshee Hellion pressure, you can also throw it in versus them too.
Speaking of Banshee Hellion pressure, game number 2 between Byung and Sleep was on Frost, and it was like MVP's really old school mech style where you go like a lot of Banshees with Hellions into mech. And it was kind of cool to see such an old build pop up, and he actually did beat Sleep with it. It was kind of neat. What do you guys think about that? Was that just like you're not going to be ready for this moment, or is that a build that we might possibly see get rotated back in?
I think from the first game, it's what Rossi was saying before, right? Like where it's really good against Sleep and someone like Lucera as well, because they're so focused on the Ling Bane style. And we saw it in game 1. The Banshees did quite a bit of damage. I'm pretty sure that's why the push was so close to working.
Yeah, I think mech in general is still not the greatest, but because of the way that game turned out, it was actually a really good decision because Sleep went for that big Ling Bane cheese where he ran him all around the map to try catch Byung off guard.
Yeah.
So, and Banshee Hellion, that counters cheese pretty damn well. So, and the fact that he knows his delay is delayed, he can just keep making them and he can keep pressuring. This is something like I love to do this in Wall. I've done this to Pig in the past as well. I'm sure he remembers. But no, you
Horrible
can just
memories,
keep.
man.
Yeah. If you know they're going to be after doing that sort of pressure, they're going to be droning, and you can literally just keep making Banshees and Hellions whilst adding double armory expansion, and you're in control of the game from there. And because Sleep's economy is weak from that pressure, and because of the harass, the mech is just already so powerful because mech is something you need to have a stronger economy than to deal with efficiently. So yeah, it was just really good in that scenario. Still not a fan of mech in general, but worth trying if you're in a really ahead position because you can sort of build on that.
Okay, so kind of not the best build, but good if your opponent isn't so good against these types of harassment once again.
I think so.
Is that, you guys agree, Igas and Pig?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Like, either he studied him hard and figured, yeah, I think a mech build like this will be good. Either that or he was just being funny, since mech is really weird. And you have the advantage of your opponent, like, in his mind, he's like, he's seriously playing mech? What the fuck is this guy doing? Which could sometimes win games.
I don't think that's what was in Byung's mind. This is his job, so I somehow think he really thought he could just win with it. So, Pig, what do you think on that? Is it just something to use against someone that's kind of weak against this style?
Yeah, I think mech's pretty powerful. Partly as well because it's a style where often you see it just die to some good blinding clouds. But I often feel that's a mistake on the Terran's part, letting it happen, and this is why a lot of people dismiss it. I do feel like it is weaker than Biomine, considering how strong Biomine is at the moment. So I think I can understand why most Terran players are just sticking with that. But Gumiho also last night mixed it in one game, and I thought it's really good because the Zerg players are not practicing against it as much. So just in terms of like, he's not going to be as prepared against this, and even though it's not as good as Biomine, it's still really, really powerful strategy. Like, if you actually spread out siege tanks really well, the Zerg needs a very large number of Vipers. I think the scary thing for the Terran player is that Zerg players are figuring out swarm hosts more, though. So if you do go into it with parity in the mid game, you're both kind of equal. They get up to this kind of really, really unbeatable, slow, boring swarm host style. I think the mech player's going to have a hard time. But at the same time, we've seen some really good players, they get to that situation and then they're like, oh, you've got 30 swarm hosts, and they pick up like 3 drops of siege tanks and go and kill 4 hatcheries. And if they find the window for that sort of thing to happen, it's actually like really, really cool. So I reckon mixing mech in, doing like a big, heavy, aggressive opener, whether with 2-fact Blue Flame or Hellion Banshee like he did against Sleep, yeah, it's a good option.
You know, that's
One of the other
yeah.
one of the other
I
things
guess.
that makes mech a little better positioned in the metagame is that the cheeses that made mech like bullshit, which was either speed roach attack, like a really fast one, or roach nidus, they're not done currently, and they're the cheeses that made opening mech really hard back in wings.
Mm.
So it's harder to get cheesed.
And
That's nice.
you know, I kind of like what you just said, Pig, about you know, picking up like a bunch of medevacs full of siege tanks and stuff and going to kill hatcheries against that storm host play, because I don't know if any of you guys saw yet the DRG Gumiho. I'm guessing probably not because it was just last night, but like he went mech on Akalon, and DRG after the first Viper push that killed a bunch of tanks went for mass swarm host Infester, and he was just picking up siege tanks and Hellions, then dropping them out and then transforming them into Hellbats, which was really cute because then you basically are dropping 4 Hellbats and actually like targeting down hatches and stuff. It was really kind of cool to see from Gumiho. But
I actually think he should have won that game, to be honest. I think he opened up really well. He was in a nice position, but there was that one first engage where I think he got to that point where you're the turn and you're moving out and you're like, I've got a maxed army, this is my moment, and you realize there's creep spread to your doorstep covering the entire map, and you kind of just go, oh crap. Like, and you kind of freak out a little bit because he just moved out in a ball, started scanning, frantically trying to clear creep, and DRG just kind of came in. He just sieged up his army in a big blob, 2 blinding clouds covered it, and it was such a one-sided fight. But then, because Gumiho actually, when he's playing it properly, doesn't get caught out like that, the next fight, he had like half the army size. DRG was maxed again. He spread out his tanks beautifully and cleaned up Dongregu's army, and it was like, oh, if you did that the first time, this would be a completely different game. So
have to agree with that. And then it became so close anyways at the end, despite losing so many units. But yeah, I would like to see if someone like Gumiho could bring back mech a bit more. Too hard a group though. So I don't know who else is brave enough to keep trying stuff like that at the top level.
My only thing about mech is like TVZ. I think it's only going to work on Akalon, really. If in an even game, I think Akalon's definitely the best map for it.
That's true.
And that's the only map I've really seen. I've seen Gumiho go mech on that map. I've seen MVP do it as well, and MVP did it really beautifully in the WCS, where he pulled half of his tanks half at a time and dealt with swarm hosts like really cleanly, which is, I think, something incredibly difficult to do. But yeah, 3 units sort of deal with mech pretty nicely. So
You deal with everything.
I don't know what
kind
other
of
maps.
nicely, it seems. All right. No, I have to agree
smelly.
with that as well. I actually think Akalon should probably just go away soon. That map it's like problematic. It's too easy to take all your bases, and
I don't think
makes
it will
games
go
like
away
that.
for a long time though. I think it's the new Daybreak, and it'll be here until the middle of next year. Like,
What can you give me a prediction on when we can finally get rid of Whirlwind and Belashir, because they're getting pretty old too. Like seriously.
I love Whirlwind so much.
I love
like,
Belashir, but
cross-map Whirlwind ZVT. It's like, oh, I'm 30 supply down. Wait, it's cross-map Whirlwind. All right. You know, I'm actually not going to die on this map. It takes too long for your units to get here.
well, speaking of Whirlwind and mech not being as good as Widowmine Bio, DRG versus Innovation. We have to start talking about this because I feel like the world of StarCraft changed last night. For anyone who did not watch, Innovation and DRG played 3 macro games, and DRG won 2 of them, 2-1. And the one he lost, Innovation hit a base on that DRG had no idea about. Or DRG would have won that game too. So, first off, I gotta ask, Iagas, are Widow Mines not enough anymore? Because you are always talking about, well, if you lose, just make more Widow Mines. But DRG did not give 2 shits about Widow Mines in those games.
Look, Innovation lost to a Zerg once, and then he just continued to demolish all the Zergs. I don't think we can just jump and say this again. Also, even if he didn't lose that base, he could have just milled the shit out of the base he did have. Like, he didn't have to hide that one base. I don't want to... I take offense to you making it sound like this hidden base was
You take offense. I love it. Oh. Pig, what do you think, man?
You didn't need tricks.
DRG dealt with this so well.
He did. I think it's a timing issue. I think basically I watched those games and I sat there with taking notes on timings because that's what really matters in every matchup. I mean, that's what StarCraft's about. It's not about does mines beat mutas or mutas beat mines. It's about what time do the mutas come out and what times do the mines come out. And I think we saw 2 wins for DRG against him. Actually, we saw, well, the reason I think the series was as close as it was is partly because we had Derelict Watcher and Cross-Map Whirlwind, 2 of the absolute best maps for Zerg in ZVT. I was actually surprised that Innovation did win the Whirlwind game because Dongregu was playing that so well. But what we really saw was very interesting. What I was talking about before is those 11-minute pushes with like 10 Widow Mines, Marines, and it's the very early beginning of the parade push. A lot of Terrans have moved away from that now, and Innovation being kind of the leader guy who basically says, no, I'm going to actually use my factory to build reactors. He doesn't build Widow Mines early anymore. It just keeps building reactors. And what he's been doing and what he did last night was he'd move out with his 6 Hellions, his 2 Medevacs, and his Marine Marauder, and he'd just try to clear creep, but he was never really trying to do damage. And I feel like because of the way Dongregu playing, that was actually his window to start dealing damage. Dongregu was going late Mutalisks, heavy Ling Bane. And the way it works in Zerg vs Terran at the moment is if the Zerg is forced to engage a lot against Widow Mines without Mutalisks, they're always going to be cost inefficient. So, in my opinion, I feel like because Dongregu was delaying his Mutalisks, early Widow Mine pushes and a kind of early beginning to the parade would have actually traded excellently for Innovation, and I think he could have gotten a good position. But instead, he was focused on saying, I'm going to add a second factory, I'm going to get Drilling Claws, and it's going to be around the 15-minute mark with 2-2 that I really start pushing. But I think at that stage, Dongregu had the 20-plus Mutalisks up, and he just microed perfectly. And he just bought himself endless time, did some nice counterattacks, and I think I think Innovation had windows before that to get the damage done and get the tempo going his way. I don't know what you guys think, though.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Innovation played pretty amazing there. And you're saying he needs to attack earlier. It's so hard to with the build he's doing. He's getting everything at once. He's getting double eBay. He's getting the third. It's difficult to attack much earlier than the timings he's hitting, in my opinion. He would have to change his build in some way or alter it, delayed drilling clause and stuff, which his sort of play really relies on. So
yeah. Don't you feel it lets too much creep spread for the Zerg as well, though, because he is delaying that so much? Because we were seeing Scarlet-esque creep spread out of Dongregu in all those games, and it was a big factor.
Yeah, in every game.
Having studied Innovation's timings when he first started doing 3CC stuff to where it is now, the difference between his now stuff is that his medevacs are actually quicker. Like, his first medevac push is, the whole point is to scan 1 or 2, or 3, or however many sets of creep tumors just to make sure that the Zerg doesn't, well, first up to make sure the Zerg doesn't creep everything, because that's horrible. But also to clear the way for the 4th, because you don't actually have to stop most of the Zerg's creep. They're allowed to have a certain amount of creep, and you're just comfortable with that. Because if at the very least Zerg can't have a 4th, they're not going to beat Terran.
Mm.
And So, and Innovation's habit of moving out with his first push, like, and just making sure moving out with his first big push, designed purely just to attack creep and not actually ever hit the Zerg and scare them. He's been doing that since forever.
Yeah.
One thing that I noticed, or a couple things I noticed that I really liked out of DRG that I felt was a little bit different, and correct me if I'm wrong. The two things was at the fourth base, basically at the base that he knew was going to be under siege by the Terran, he was adding a bunch of spine crawlers to help slow that down, which I don't see as often from a lot of other Zergs. They're just trying to do it with Ling Bane Mute a lot of the time. And also, I felt like I saw at least twice during the series where he rolled Banelings where he knew there was Widow Mines were too close and just detonated them to kill the Widow Mines, which I thought was pretty cool because he was really he was gung-ho about trying to keep the Widow Mine count as low as possible, I felt. What do you guys think about those two moves?
I only saw the Whirlwind game, but it's actually pretty common for Zergs to make spines on the Whirlwind through those tiny chokes, the ones with the rocks. Every now and then I actually just make a tank to siege those.
He did it on Derelict as well, and then on... What the hell is the name of that map? The huge one we were just talking about. I'm so bad.
Ross?
No.
They played on
Yonsu. He did that on that high ground area towards, Innovation took the third towards him, and then he pushes creep real fast, and most of the battles happen right there where it was away from DRG's bases. If you guys saw that part with the spine crawlers on that little ledge. I love that play.
It forces a Terran to just commit a few more Marines just to deal with that, and that means the small little Baneling clumps he sends out will do more damage. So sort of like a little bait tactic, I guess, but it delays the Terran and allows those Banes to do more damage.
So this style that DRG has used against Innovation, you guys mentioned, Innovation's he's doing his style. It's a little bit different. He's building the reactors. He's pushing for creep spread instead of units. Is DRG's style that he used against Innovation, is this something that is just going to be like a brick wall for the way Innovation is playing? Is he going to have to switch it up a bit and not be able to play exactly how he likes to play? Or was just... What do you think on that?
I think it was still incredibly close games, which, especially on different maps, perhaps if Belshir Vestige or something like that was in the pool, I think Innovation would have come out on top on a map like that. But it's definitely something where I think Innovation could play stronger styles against that. And the type of build and the kind of timings which Dongregoo is building up, it's not completely unique to him. I think what's unique to Dongregoo is how he executes once he hits the mid game, just his fantastic multitasking and micro. But I think it's become very popular amongst a lot of Korean Zergs to do that same sort of style. So I think it would benefit to do a lot more heavier waves of aggression in order to actually cut into the Zerg creep spread. I think creep spread has always been one of the most important things in Zerg vs Terran. And I think even when you see these crazy styles like what we saw Bomber do in the WCS World Finals, the reason it's so effective is because there's these unexpected waves of aggression that are coming out, knocking the creep back, putting the Zerg on the back foot. And especially against the super greedy kind of Scarlet type styles we saw in that final game with her and Bomber, where there was Bomber really changed up the Terran style. Rather than doing this, let's add reactors, let's add infrastructure, it was all non-stop units out of a factory and a starport while adding the economy and having really, really hugely delayed infrastructure. And we saw that work against Sleeper as well with the mech, the Hellion Banshee constant pressures. And I think it's definitely something which, if some Terran players mix in there, it's not what the Zergs are expecting, and it's what they're somewhat weak to at the moment.
What did you guys think about the fact that DRG never really went ultras or infestors and just stayed completely on middling?
It was very DRG-esque.
Mutas are like the best unit in TVZ right now. For the Zerg, Mutas and Banes are actually their two best units against Biomine. As soon as you've got enough Mutas that you can kill a base, which is like a lot of Mutas, but as soon as you have enough to kill a base, it's like, because normally the way Biomine works is you just keep making armies and keep attacking, and it's fine if they all die, because the Zerg can't actually kill you unless you fuck up something huge. But once you've got enough Mutas that can kill a base and your economy gets cut off, losing units hurts. And that's basically why you make Mutas. It's to kill drops and to get that mass going. And Ultras and Infestors are not mutas, so they're a waste.
Yeah, drops become really powerful at that stage. Just the other day, I was in a really dominant position on Whirlwind, and I thought, it's time. I've got 3-3. Let's go Ultra Infesta. And as my Ling Bane count went down, I couldn't react to drops properly, and I was like, oh crap, I actually need a lot of static defense, because you're on 6 or 7 bases this late in the game. Like, it's been back and forth for 40 minutes, and it's really, really hard. You got to actually be really well prepared to make those late game transitions. I actually think rather than Ultralisks, if you're in a good spot, just getting out a few Broodlords to make a frontal push really strong against the Widow Mines is really good. It's not a massive expenditure, just about 4 Broodlords, and with Mutiling Bane, it's actually very, very powerful.
Mm. And do you guys think the Overseer change, like, I feel like because they're faster, they're soaking up more Bane hits, and those early skirmishes are actually a lot better for the Zerg in terms of, like, the not getting those big mine hits, and they're actually trading a bit more efficiently in those early skirmishes. So basically, their economy's pretty much been unaffected, and they can move into the later stage of the game a lot better.
I've definitely noticed less Overseers are dying when you're running away, and
Yeah, that's
I've
true.
definitely noticed them getting hit by mines a little bit more, and I've noticed more and
That's
more
also
Zergs
true.
focusing on flying in. If they see a Widow Mine by itself, they just fly in with the mutas and kill it real quick, because Overseer keeps up with the mutas, basically. So, personally, as someone that watches a ton of TVZ, I feel like I've seen a good difference.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not nothing. Something as small as Overseers being slightly faster is pretty good for Zerg.
Mm.
I was actually, like, the first game I played of that, I didn't even know the patch went through, and I was so surprised to see these rocket nitro boosted Overseers flying around. But the first game, I thought we were fucked, because he kept, like, using it to bait Widowmine shots and drag them onto all my Marines. Because they don't target them, they target the actual units first. Fortunately, no, this is not actually the new reality. But
Well,
thank
I think
God.
they're just better in that, like, 2 to 4 Widow Mine stage, where, like, when you take out those 2 mine shots, you're actually making a lot bigger difference in the fight than when there's like 8, 10 mines.
Yeah.
I like the patch change. I feel like ZVT is more
good.
fun to watch now.
It
Definitely.
seems like a tremendous nuisance for Zergs to be paying like 150 every time they wanted to retreat their Mutalisks.
Well, the
Yeah.
problem is now the first day when I didn't realize the patch went in either, I was like, why are my Overseers keep dying even in these small skirmishes where I'm just rolling a small force? And then I just actually started watching my fights, and my Overseers like dive through the middle of the pack. And I'm like, oh, I can't just A-move my Overseers in my control group anymore. I've actually got to manually kind of pull these back a little bit. Okay. I think ZVT is still incredibly hard for Zergs. I think it's definitely not like the hardest, like unbeatable, unwinnable thing. But I think we could use some more buffs. Like, I think
You have
what
your,
was
you have your guard, don't you? You're fine now. You killed our guard. We're fine. No buffs needed.
well, it
Match
was
up.
interesting because like, did you guys read MC's blog where he's talking about ZVT being 2 set in the 1 metagame?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like that was really interesting because despite him saying that, I feel like the Korean metagame is always very centered around the one thing at a time, and it very much has a very tight kind of paradigm shift because there's not as many players just kind of going, I'm just going to do my own thing because there's this pressure in this kind of team house environment to do what's already working. So you're copying the best players a lot more. But then we did see Dongregu bust out the Roach Hydra really effectively yesterday. So I still have the same attitude I always have to Roach Hydra. I think it's a great surprise tactic. It's fantastic if the Terran starts doing some kind of later third command center 2-base aggression. The Roaches just kind of roll over it, and you can deny the Terran third for a really long time. But I think it always runs into the problem with where do you transition from the Roach Hydra, and if the Terran kind of maxes out and takes a 15-minute third base, can the Zerg actually get enough ahead to transition off that? Have you guys been facing any Roach Hydra recently?
Yeah, free lit.
Yep.
It's an amazing source of free ladder points.
Yeah, that's how I beat Lowly at Hong Kong. He tried to play Roach Hydra, and if you know they're going to play Roach Hydra, I think you can handle it pretty well. His style was Roach Hydra, Infesta into Ultra. So he tried to make the Ultras work, but you sort of
Good,
already
you just make one unit. You make one Marauder, and it kills all
Yeah.
of that.
you sort of have the units prepared to deal with that sort of shit. So I still think it's good if you can catch them off guard more so.
Yeah.
If they know you're going to do it, they can hard counter it pretty hard, I reckon.
If you surprise them with like a speed roach timing, then yeah, maybe
Yeah.
sometimes it'll work. But
Well,
normally
sometimes
I
they
think
just
it's
have
complete ass.
so many units that they can do a lot of damage to your third as well. If you don't have tanks
Yeah.
in place and you only have just a couple Marine Mine, like
I don't
all
even
that
build
Roach
tanks
Hydra
against it
can...
anymore. I just mass Marauder medevac. Beats the Hydras, beats the Roaches. Beats
Still think
everything.
there's a vulnerable point there if you have no economic damage early. Like they can have like 160, 170 supply at like 13 minutes, and you'll
Yeah,
only
if
have
it's mostly Roach based, then Marauders are gonna shit on it.
Depends
I
how
guess.
early you get your tech lab infrastructure up. So it comes down to the surprise
Yeah, that's
factor.
true.
It all
Yeah.
comes down to that. But also, I think the new maps are awesome for Roach Hydra. When you look at Polar Knight, something I forgot to mention before is look at how far away those third bases are. Look at those big open areas. And Dongoregu just made the smartest decision yesterday against Gumiho to do that. And you saw him come around behind Gumiho's army and split it off. Because there's always this point where if the Terran realizes you're going Roach Hydra, pulls back and just waits until he gets a few more units out, he hits a point where he rolls over the Zerg army. It's kind of like Blinkstalker timings, where there's a point where they lose no Blinkstalkers and they just kill you. But if you have just enough units, the Blinkstalker timing looks really pathetic. That's kind of how Roach Hydra works as well. So I think if you're going to do it just once in a while on a map like Polar Knight, something like that, it's a really, it's something which is still in the metagame. So I don't think ZVT is quite as stale as MC made out in that blog. Though it was a really good read.
Yeah, it was. MC's such a smart guy. The way he wrote that and the way he was telling, he brought like a lot of reality into people's faces. I was reading that in the airport with Tasteless on the way back from Hong Kong. I'm like, oh shit, this guy is so smart. Like I already knew MC was smart, but the guy really knows what he's talking about. If you guys haven't seen it, where was the translation? Was it on Reddit or Team Liquid? I can't remember where I read it.
It's on Team Liquid. It's one of their like featured threads, spotlighted threads. SKMC's thoughts on current state.
Yeah, and you guys should definitely go read that because MC is one of the smartest people in StarCraft for sure. So it's actually a very good read. But all right, so let's jump back to the game a little bit here. I think we've talked about DRG versus Innovation. It was a great series. It was very fun, but we definitely need to talk as well about Flash versus Hiva because someone wrote this in the Google Doc, so we're going to talk about it. Hiva, one of my favorite players to watch, I do have to say. I don't know if the whole world agrees with me yet, but I think they will one day because he is so fun with how cheesy he is. But Flash ended up holding overall, and it felt like it was going to be a 2-0 at one point. I think the same game was Derelict, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
I didn't watch
yeah.
it too closely, but it was like, yeah, he's just going 3 command centers with like 1,000 bunkers. And at some point,
there was like one bunker I think when he hit, and there was 27 Banelings, and there was like 4 Hellions and 8 Marines on a ramp, and not a single Baneling connected.
It was
And
weird.
yeah, that's
It was
Flash.
amazing
Like,
and disgusting at the same time. Like
He was
He
like
should
pulling
not-
his Marines out of bunkers so fast and stuff. Like it was crazy.
it was.
if I
it was
remember, the
beautiful.
Roaches got in the
Yeah.
way of the Banes, so the Banes couldn't get in, and then it all kind of fell apart.
Yeah.
And he
Turns
made
out
no
you can't
bets.
go up a ramp versus Flash.
Yeah, well, I was actually looking at that, and I was thinking, is this a thing where if the Terran keeps all his Hellions alive, and he's got stim, because he went for a fast stim, and he's got, say, just 8, 10 Marines, is it just you can't go up that ramp? Because those Banelings, there were clumps of like 10, and it's like, oh, 2 of them are going to make contact, and they'd all just disappear to the Hellion splash. I mean, it was amazing that Flash had the cool to not just panic and try to stutter backwards. He literally just sat there and focus fired perfectly. But I got scared watching that because I've been enjoying my Roach Bane, and in that situation I do a similar one with like 1 billion Banelings, and if they've done that opening, they never hold it. And watching Flash do that kind of scared and disgusted me at the same time. So I don't know. Do you think you can hold it without even having bunkers now? Like,
You need like 4 bunkers.
You need like 4 bunkers.
But I mean, like as a Terran or as any player, like whenever you're watching pro games and you see these players do these like crazy greedy builds, and then you go to ladder and you try them, you just get smashed. Like you just keep dying, and you wonder like how the fuck do they hold these cheeses? How do they do it? Are they gambling when they do this in the tournaments? But it was cool to see Flash vs Iver because like you get to see him versing the same shit we verse on ladder, and you
Yeah.
get to see how he deals with it. So it's actually pretty like a good learning experience as someone watching it. So you can know, I mean, like you know how they'll react in a macro situation. You get to see how they react in like the ladder cheesy situation too. So cool to learn from.
Hiva truly is a ladder hero. He's like the guy that justifies all those asses I meet on ladder that it's like, listen, you're never going to be a pro. Then they just wave the Hiva flag. They're like, it can happen. There's one there's one of us up there. I love it, man. He's so great. But that was like a pretty insane hold. I'm actually so sad that Hiva doesn't go further in this tournament. I would love to see him get like a round of 8 or something. That would imagine him playing a best of 5. What would that look like? Oh my god.
Yeah.
It would take about
Yes.
10 minutes.
How many
He's so-
Quick day of work for me. Oh man.
He's so smart though. Like that's what always shocks me about his builds. Like even when his first wave of the Roach Bane got held, and he did that. Let's just sit on 46 drones, rush our lair, and go straight for Roach speed and Bane speed. And the next wave was actually so scary. And then Flash just did that beautiful pull up his ramp, and Ivor just followed him. And then you just hear Admiral Akbar, and there's like all these bunkers suddenly around Hiver's army in like a concave, and you're like, how did this happen? And everything died. Yeah, that was actually just beautiful hold by Flash.
Yeah, I think that's what we need. We need bunkers that can cloak.
Cloaks bunkers.
Cloak bunkers, exactly. So when they
I think
attack,
that's a great idea.
when they
The
attack,
banelings
they
are
just
still
go
going to
by
kill them,
ramp.
you realize. They'll just people just learn how to detonate
Against
the right number
Protoss.
of
Against
bangs.
Protoss.
Oh, against Protoss, of course. So
All the Zelds move in. Like,
yeah, you need more cloak stuff. You
Where's
need
our
more
mothership
night servers
go?
already?
I mean, not. Where's our mothership? I mean,
Oh my.
But,
Okay.
actually, no, cloaked bunkers, exactly. When you're 2 racks of Zerg, he's like, yeah, everything's fine. Well, there's just an SCV chilling at my natural. And then he's been bunker walled off. He can't even see.
I think that most of the ideas you have are wrong, and I think you think in ones and zeros. It's funny. I just love talking about StarCraft with you, Iagas.
We need
Oh
more
man.
cloaked-
Any other thoughts on Hiva versus Flash before we move on to the subject I really am so excited to talk about?
I just like
I
Flash's
don't know why
balls.
he had Hellbat, but it was...
Oh, the
Like,
Hellbat.
Yeah, in the third game, he did one of his old Hellbat Marauder builds.
Hmm.
And it worked because when you go Stim Marauder against Roaches, like, completely blind, it tends to be good for Terran.
I think
Yeah.
it's a good build versus cheese too. It's a pretty safe build.
Yeah, I think so. Just against Hiva overall, you know he's not going to go like Mutiling Bane. That's not going to happen. So you may as well open Marauders, right? Why not? It was pretty smart. But Ross, you were saying you like Flash's balls. What was that?
Well, game 1 and game 2, he still did the ridiculously crazy CC first fast third build
Yeah.
before 5 minutes, like versus Hiva, and he was building CCs on the low ground too.
Oh, that
versus
was the
someone
funniest
who's-
part. Like game 2,
someone
he
who's-
builds on the low ground against Hiva. It's like Hiva will 6-pool every now and then. It just will
Oh,
happen.
yeah. Like he's just really smart and yeah, sick balls for doing that sort of shit.
Props to Flash. It's almost his time again.
Mm.
Great player. So, all right, let's wrap that up. And I want to talk about. I've been wanting to do a show with only Australians for a while now because it's really interesting. It reminds me a lot of the StarCraft 1 scene in America, where we were almost all Terrans, and then there was like a couple Protoss and a couple Zergs, and that was it for as far as top tier talent. So it really made our metagame a bit different, how you practice a bit different. Australia's kind of like this. You guys actually, for those of you who don't know at home, they have the ACL, which is like a pretty decent tournament series. It's actually better than most countries don't have anything like this, where you actually have stops in different cities in Australia that you guys all fly to or drive to or whatever it is, and you compete and you win your prizes, and it's really cool. It's so there's actually like a tournament scene down there that compared to a lot of places, I think you can call it thriving. So With also for anyone who doesn't know, it's like almost all Zergs down there. We have 2 Terrans on the show, but they don't have much more than that. So there's a few things of like about how the Australian metagame works and how you guys function as a smaller community within the international StarCraft community that I want to talk about. The first thing I just have to get out of the way because I thought this was the most funny thing ever. I heard a while back, I think it was like 6 months ago or something, that Light pretended. Now, Light is the best Protoss in Australia.
Yes.
He's actually so good that he hit last season at the beginning of the season. He hit GM on the Korean server, so he's like a really, really good Protoss, and he's the best in Australia. And there's like very few top end Protosses in Australia. So, from what I heard is that he spread the rumors that he switched to Terran.
He was off racing a lot of Terran too at the time.
Yeah, and he had a
Yeah.
Smurf account he was practicing Mass Protoss on. So I guess what he was trying to do was get you guys to just not practice against Protoss at all. Now, did this happen and did it work? That's what I need to know because it's too awesome. It's like too epic.
Well, he did end up playing Protoss at that tournament and getting like 3rd or 4th, I think. That was ACL Brisbane.
Yeah, I think he got 3rd at that one. Yeah.
That's
Well, what
good.
we understood was, or my interpretation was, I didn't know he was actually practicing on a Smurf. I knew he was still playing a bit, but I didn't know how hard. And I knew he was laddering a lot on this Terran. Luckily, he wasn't in my group, so I didn't have to think about it too much. But I know, like Moonglade and stuff were in his group, and they were all a bit confused. Like it definitely worked in some way.
His fucking symbol, like, because they had this graphic for the groups, and it was nice, and it had like
What?
a symbol for every player, and there were 2 for him. There was like a Terran one and a Protoss one.
What
That's
made it
fucked
work?
up. That's not allowed.
What made it work was the fact he said he made it out like he didn't care about the game anymore, and he was just coming up for fun, and that he was just going to play Terran because Terran's more fun than Protoss, he implied. So I think that's why some people sort of believed it. They thought he was just coming up for fun instead
I
of
think
like secretly serious.
I think he told me once that his TVT he felt so like bad at. He didn't like that was one of the reasons why he didn't play. Shit, TVT didn't want to lose to us.
But Light says a lot of
Light
things.
says a lot of things.
yeah.
This is
Sneaky gentleman.
it's too cool that he did that. He tried that and it kind of worked. I have like my hat. If I had one, would be off to him because that is awesome. He didn't really quit, by the way, right?
I think he
Uh,
has.
He's coming
but
to ACL
he's
Sydney,
quit.
but he's coming to ACL Sydney, but I don't think he'll have practiced for it. You're gonna see
You know what? He's
the
probably
best
doing the
builds.
same thing again. He's like, "Oh, guys, it's not that I'm playing Terran this time. It's that I've quit." And now he's got a new Smurf in the GM of Korea, like laddering 400 games a day or something. Like,
he is stupidly talented. After like a week, he'll be top tier again. But
Yeah, and
If he actually
it's
practiced.
it's his work ethic as well. Like he'll finish a full-time day of work, and then he'll come home and play 70 games, like 70 games for like 12 hours straight. And it's just like, okay,
uh,
you're actually back in form after 3 days of practice. How did this happen? Yeah.
yeah, that's probably what's gonna happen. And then he'll get 4th again, and we'll just have to kill him.
well, you just have to not believe anything he says ever again. The guy he's a sneak. All right. So let's go over some things about like how you guys practice because obviously, first off, explain to everyone what is the latency like to each server for you guys and what's playable, what's not.
Everything but Europe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Unless
What's
you're
Pretty much.
T-Gun used to play Europe tournaments, like TSL qualifiers and stuff. You get about 320 MS to Europe, somewhere around there. So it's pretty much unplayable though.
Yeah.
I'm
Everything is-
stupid about numbers like that. Like I live in Korea with the best internet they offer. What is my ping to the Korean server?
2.
2? And you guys
Probably
played
2.
at 350 to Europe? What?
Yeah.
We normally won't play anything above like 250 would be the absolute max any of us would ever play at, but really anything over 200 starts to severely handicap you in my opinion. Like
Yeah.
I'm pretty lucky with my connection to Korea. It sometimes gets as low as about 150 MS. More often it's around like 170, but it's somewhere in that range. I know like Petraeus in New Zealand used to practice to Korea with like 250 MS. and somehow still be like rank 1 master, which was pretty incredible. Because when you get in micro fights, especially Zerg versus Zerg with delay, it's like really, really hard. But you end up learning how to deal with it. Like, I think a lot of us, our play does change as a result. Like, for instance, a lot of the time when I'm in a Ling Bane battle on a laggy connection, it's not so much about trying to force myself down the opponent's throat as it is trying to occupy their attention without really putting myself in a position where I need to use the most minute twitch reactions. It's just kind of putting pressure on and saying, if I do this here and here, it's going to be hard for him to react. And if they've reacted in a decent way, you kind of just pull out of the situation and you keep trying to get ahead through tech switches and macro. But we can still micro pretty well. But I think it affects Terran most of all, which is why I feel sorry for these two guys.
I think so too. Nah, we get pretty much the same ping to pretty much Korea, C, NA. Depending on your connection, you'll get around the same ping to each server. So obviously we'll all prefer to practice on Korea. Tournaments we prefer to play on C because it's technically the closest, but it's still quite far away for us. Yeah.
Everything is far away from Australia. It's the weirdest thing when I flew there, just to, like, made a connection in Malaysia. I'm like, okay, we're almost there. Tasteless, like, freaked out on the plane. He's like, oh yeah, okay, we'll be there pretty soon. And then the intercom comes on. It's like, this flight will be 9 hours. And what? Like, really? I'm already at the equator and it's going to be 9 more hours to get to Sydney? Okay, so it's kind of bad ping. Does this actually affect the play style overall of Australians? Like, do you have less micro-based players in general? Like, does it make you guys sit back, play the longer macro games more? Do you see like a trend like that down there?
From a Terran perspective, I think we cheese less because of it, for sure. Like, I'm definitely hesitant to 11-11 because I know my starter step is not going to be as amazing as Korean doing it or like someone with 5 ping doing it. So definitely less inclined to cheese, more vulnerable to cheese. So I know Zergs like to cheese us because like we won't be able to deal with it as amazingly. And yeah, I think speaking for Argus, both of us prefer to play the more macro style for sure. Pretty much all matchups.
Okay. Now, you guys have a scene where you play against each other like a lot in these tournaments. Like, I'm sure you've all hit each other multiple times on lands and stuff. Does this prevent you from practicing with each other? Do you guys like all just kind of ladder separately, or are there little pockets where it's like, well, maybe, you know, Pig and Moonglade play together and then Mafia and Rossi play together or something like that? Like, how do you guys work together, or are you always kind of apart because you hit each other in tournaments so much?
I think whenever we're playing like international tournaments, we'll all kind of hit each other up for practice a bit because it's like, oh wait, we're playing people outside of our scene, you know, guys help me out. But if we've got local tournaments on, like no one will practice with each other at all, pretty much. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, like it actually, the most recent ACL, my teammate Megafonzi is an up-and-coming Protoss player. And like a few days before the event, I was like watching his replays and like giving him advice for his PVZ. And then in the bracket, we get each other like straight away, and I know all his builds, and I'm like, well, this is really slack shit. So yeah, like it's a situation where I think most of us are pretty, you know, oh, I don't want to practice with you. Like Iaguz here, I guess is definitely kind of the top player at the moment in the region, but he refuses to practice with Zergs because he says his TVZ is too good.
No.
You only want to practice against Protoss and Terran all the time. Yeah.
I believe Pig right now, I have to say. I don't think you can save yourself from this one.
Well, he doesn't really need to practice first, though. Like, it's pretty damn good. Yeah, for myself, I practice with Glade, but for TVZ. But I think it's also not just how small our region is. It's also in terms of teams. Like, you don't really want to practice with someone outside your team because they're going to be teammates with someone you're versing, and like it's all because we're all so tight knit and there's only a couple competitive teams. It's very hard to not cross over lines and shit like that.
That's good.
Plus, Korean server is just amazing practice anyway. So yeah, we get pretty good variety there.
It is the best. And the last part I really want to hit on is because it's so Zerg heavy, when there's an upcoming Australian event that you guys are going to hit, or just even in general when there's not one right on the horizon, but there's nothing necessarily that you're going to travel to, how do you divvy up your practice time? Like, do you try to focus on like watching maybe more ZVZ VODs or getting more ZVZ practice partners or TVZ, whatever it is? Like, how do you decide to do that?
Well, I think
It's,
there's always a case.
Oh, we all fell over each other.
Ah!
Who's first?
You go, man.
Alright,
You go, man.
watch Invasion VODs, / Bomber / Pult, and hit Find Match a shitload of times.
Okay, so just
Yeah.
all matchups, you just grind them all because your TVZ
Well,
is
like,
so good.
TVZ is the most important one, but like, currently it's at a state where I feel really comfortable against almost everyone except maybe King Kong, but he's weird, so you can't really plan for him. So, it's currently the other matchups that I need to be actually good at. So I just hit Find Match a lot, and
Okay.
that works for me.
Yeah, basically, I think we all focus on the Zerg aspect. Like, one thing I've noticed is, I mean, we have a lot of Zergs, but I'd say each Zerg in Australia has a different playstyle. Pretty much, they all play differently. So you actually do have to do still quite a bit of preparation and have new builds because I mean they all know, like, they get to watch us play versus Zerg after Zerg. They get to see exactly how we're playing too, so they'll
Yeah.
see our new builds pretty fast. So you need to have I would say, for myself, you need to have a bit of variety. I guess does the same build every game, but
Whole build beats
Um,
everything.
yeah. So I like to mix it up a bit more and have more builds prepared for all the different Zergs. And I'm pretty confident in my other matchups anyway. So ladder mostly for the other matchups, more precise, more preparation for the Zergs.
Okay.
Yeah, for a long time for me, it was very Zerg focused. It was like, all right, there's Iagars, and there's Rossi, and there's Light, and there's maybe one other non-Zerg, and then there's like 10 Zergs that I've all got to worry about. So it was always like very much focus on my ZVZ, try to figure this out. So my ZVZ, I think, got to a really good level long before my other matchups did, just because I never really got a lot of games in tournaments against the other races. So nowadays, I actually feel so confident in Zerg vs Zerg, and I just kind of permanently have a good, like, 5 or more builds, which are really solid, which I can do. So when you've got that variety, and you feel really just like they're not all-in builds, they're not hard counterable or anything, you feel pretty confident, even if people have been watching your previous games, as long as you kind of mix it up enough. Yeah, you've just got to keep coming out with new versus Zerg builds, I think. I agree with Rossi on that one. As long as you've got a big variety, because if you're doing the same thing over and over, people do just start abusing you. But other than that, man, it's just the old Korean ladder. You just hop on there, and it's the same as always. You know when you're weak in a certain matchup, even if you've only got one person in the tournament. You don't really know if you're going to have to play them in the semi-finals or whatever. So you've got to be absolutely strong in like every matchup. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, that's all my questions about the Australian metagame. You guys have cleared up a lot. It's an interesting thing to see little tiny metagames within bigger metagames within even larger metagames than that. So really neat. Australian scene definitely a very strong one that no one ever really talks about or thinks about. A lot of passion down there. People aren't just doing it for the
Australia/NZ.
money because there isn't any. So, huh?
Australia/NZ, Petraeus is incredibly talented.
Yeah, I keep seeing him do well in your tournaments. It's kind of crazy. But
He beat Major recently, and he won that Masters Cup, I think.
Oh,
that's
wow.
Yeah, he beat
pretty damn
Major,
good.
Arthur, and Huangshan all on the same day.
Mexico versus New Zealand, that must have been a pretty micro game right there. Well, I think that's pretty much, I think we hit on everything that we were trying to. You guys have anything else before we do some shout-outs?
Nothing in particular.
All right. Well, let's get right to it. Why don't we start off with Pig?
Yeah, just a shout out to my team, Exile5. I'm also going to I've been streaming a bit. I'm trying to stream a bit more. So anyone who So check out my stream. I do quite a bit of coaching, and when I'm not coaching, I'm kind of doing the old analyze games and replays between hands. So that's Twitch TV/x5_pig if you want to check that out. Otherwise, yeah, just thanks everyone for tuning in. Have a good day.
All right, Iagas.
Shout outs to Frenetic Array and sponsors which Razer, Game Traders, and Umart. I think that's what we're on now. Fuck, I hope that's right. And yeah, basically similar to Pig, I stream occasionally, and I think that's about it. I don't coach though.
What's your stream link for people?
Twitch/MF Iagas.
MF Iagas. Okay.
The MF is like a tag from an old team. Pro tip: never put your tag name into Twitch because you can't change that.
Poor Pig. He's like, oh. Well,
it's like
Aussie.
make it like your tag and then StarCraft or something.
There you go.
You can change it. You've just got to request it.
You
It's
can?
just a pain. Yeah,
Oh,
you just got to go bug someone in the know, I think.
You got to be a
Damn.
partner, I think, or something.
Yeah.
Sounds right. Rossi, your shout-outs.
Yep, shout out to my team, Plantronics, sponsored by Plantronics NV. We make big ass headsets. This is the Commander. It's huge and really awesome. And shout out to my other sponsor, Frag Labs Horizon. They make laptops gaming laptops in Australia. And my Twitter's _NVRossi. So yeah, hit me up. Thanks a lot for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
Sick.
Since
All
you
right.
guys shouted out the sponsors, I'm just going to do a quick sponsor shout out as well.
ahead.
Big thanks to CM Storm, Cooler Master, Western Digital, and Gigabyte Notebooks, and NVIDIA.
Awesome. All right, and for me, sorry there wasn't meta last 2 weeks. I was traveling. I had to go to Cologne for WCS, and then I tried to get over jet lag for 2 days before I flew out to Hong Kong. So a lot of travel. But any week that I don't have travel, there will be a meta. So that's kind of how it goes. People are like, oh, there's only 2 metas this month. How are you canceling the show? Oh, no, shut the fuck up. I'm traveling, okay? If I'm traveling, it takes a lot of time, takes a lot out of you. You have to sleep. Don't worry, meta is here to stay and all that. Big cheers to my sponsors, TT Sports and iBuyPower. I'm going to be streaming StarCraft. Well, I have work tonight, so I'm not sure that I'm not going to stream it today, but maybe Sunday or Monday or something I'll get to playing again. Finally, it's been a while. So, big cheers to these guys for coming on. Thank you all very much for watching, and of course to Simon, that's Simpatico TV on Twitter. He does all the production for the show. It is awesome. Really makes it what it is, and of course Matt Eliantis does the music that is so cool. So you can check him out too. So guys, thanks for watching, and we will see you later.
Twitter.